Hello, Winnemucca Wolves. All right, we're going to do chapter 5 now of the Zodiac Legacy. All right. Chapter 5. Huh? Jasmine said, gesturing at the tiger from rising up from Stephen. That wasn't the plan. Carlos aimed his analyzer at Stephen. Almost 97% chi suffusion, he said. Line energy steady. Stem branch alignment is? The tiger roared again. He's a tiger, all right, Carlos finished. Jasmine rolled her eyes. Way ahead of you, Dr. Science. Stephen barely heard them. He looked around, trying to clear his head. One of the pools had spilled open, its eldritch liquid flowing out to sink into the ground. The control stage was a wreck, smashed flat by a fallen beam. On the far wall, curving above, a smoking shard of metal hung loose, threatening to fall. And, on the ceiling, the remaining half of the CHpt disc still flickered, but its beams were fading. Smoke filled the room, but it was starting to clear, dissipating up into the open air. Maxwell lay still, his eyes closed, legs still buried under the half of the CHpt. Bits of green energy puffed out of his mouth with each shallow breath. How can he be alive? Stephen wondered. That thing would have crushed a normal person. He won't be out for long, Jasmine said, following Stephen's gaze to Maxwell. We better move. Carlos cast a long, dour look around the wreckage. Then he turned, frowning, to gesture at Stephen. What about him? Stephen clenched his fists. Hold on, rewind, restart, respawn, stop! Jasmine raised an eyebrow. What's going on here? Stephen continued. Who are you guys? What is the Zodiac? Who is this guy buried under the king-size sundial? And why do I have a freaking tiger inside of me now? Jasmine and Carlos exchanged surprised looks. How do we start? Carlos asked. Stephen could only stare at them. He could see and feel the tiger start to fade away, and his energy died down. With a question of my own, I think, Jasmine said. She stopped to gather her thoughts. What the heck are you doing here? I followed you. You were leading a tour with my class, and I saw you go through a door. I heard some screams, and then there was a creepy staircase, and your empty uniform, and all this. Jasmine stared at him for a minute. Then, unexpectedly, she laughed. I never liked that uniform. Stephen stared back. Are you gonna answer my... Before he realized it, Stephen was on his feet and leaping. The tiger roared, stretching its paws upward. Stephen soared through the air, landing gracefully several feet away, just as an enormous metal beam tore loose from the wall and slammed down on the ground, exactly where he had been standing. Stephen stared in shock at the jagged metal beam. Dust rose up around it, settling down in the nearby pools, and on the ground its far end still hung shakily from the scarred, smoking wall. I should be dead, he thought. That thing could have killed me. The tiger, whatever it is, just saved my life. Jasmine stepped forward and grabbed his arm. Focus, kid, she said. What's your name, anyway? Stephen. Stephen, I'm just going to run through this real quick because, as you can see, this isn't a very healthy place to be right now, okay? As if to punctuate her words, the half CHpt on the ceiling gave out a loud groan. One of the lights cracked loose and fell, shattering to the ground next to the wrecked control stage. Stephen nodded quickly. Jasmine gestured around. This chamber here is an ancient site at the center of a bunch of stuff. I can never remember what they are. Ley lines, Carlos said. Right, she continued. Ley lines, chi, energy, and a whole bunch of other scientific stuff that I can't understand. Nobody understands it, except Carlos here. I only understand about half of it, Carlos smiled shyly. Maybe 2/3. The Zodiac influences all of our lives, Jasmine said, and for some reason, lost to the ages, its power concentrated in these pools. Now, every once in a while, a little bit of that energy drifts out into the world. It floats through the air until it reaches someone born in the right year under the right corresponding sign. Then the energy seeps inside that person and enters their body. Stephen stared at her. And that person gets... what? Superpowers? The energy is usually present in very small amounts. Somebody contacted by it might wind up being a little bit stronger, faster, or smarter than average, but not enough to make anyone suspect an outside influence. However, Carlos explained, once every 12 zodiac cycles, every 144 years, the stars line up in a particular configuration. At the power, the energy of the mystic pools is magnified to more than 1,000 times its normal strength. That time is today. Carlos calls it the convergence, Jasmine said, smirking slightly. He's not good with names. Carlos looked hurt. I'm good with a lot of things. Yes, you are. Of course you are. Stephen blinked. So, you mean... It's a lot to take in. I know, Jasmine said. I've got the tiger power. That's one sign of the Zodoac. Stephen paused. You've got something, and the rest of the powers are... with me? They all turned. Oh. With me! They all turned. Maxwell lay glaring at them, his teeth gritted, power flaring from his eyes, but his legs were still trapped beneath the broken shy pan. Carlos held up his analyzer. I don't think so, Chief. Far as I can see, you only absorbed 4 of the Zodiac signs, maybe 5? Maxwell's eyes flared green. Not only that, Jasmine said, but you can't hold them very long, can you? Only a person born in the year of the rat can wield the rat's power. You might be a dragon, or half a dragon anyway, but you'll have to pass along the other powers soon or they'll eat you alive. You! Maxwell seethed, staring at Jasmine. Ungrateful girl! You turned my best scientist against me! She didn't turn me against anything, Carlos said, a new edge creeping into his voice. I made my decision when I learned about listeria. Maxwell squeezed his eyes closed. A snarl escaped his lips. The bat-winged dragon flared up briefly above him and then faded quickly away. Oh, Jasmine smirked. I think you hit a nerve, Carlos. What's listeria? Stephen asked. I've fought in 7 wars, Maxwell said. I've seen things and made decisions you can't even imagine. This is a hard world, little girl. You're not ready for it. I'm not a little girl. Not anymore. Jasmine reached out her arms, her brow furrowing in concentration. A flurry of energy particles rose up from Maxwell's trapped figures, wafting over to surround Jasmine. As Stephen watched, the energy resolved itself into the form of a dragon, but not the winged dragon he'd seen projected from Maxwell. This was the other dragon, the lean one with sharp talons and a deadly jaw. Jasmine's dragon. She smiled, glowing bright. As she rose up into the air, the dragon opened its mouth wide and screeched. Then Jasmine coughed. The dragon made a shrill noise and faded away. The glow receded, and Jasmine dropped down, shakily to the ground. Oh, Jasmine, you think you can steal my power? My birthright, my mantle of the dragon? We're both dragons. Your mother would be so disappointed. A cruel smile crossing his face. Jasmine clenched her fists in anger. Dragon energy rose up from her again, but it was fainter this time, a ghost of its former self. Well, Maxwell continued, I guess I've stalled you long enough. Up on the catwalk, the stairwell door slammed open. 4 large men in military uniforms marched in, followed by 4 more, then another 6. Shoot! Cried Jasmine. Vanguard is here! You always did talk too much, Jasmine. Maxwell smiled. Who knew that smart mouth would be your downfall? Stephen eyed the soldiers, a sinking feeling in his gut. They carried big, high-tech energy weapons and bulky equipment packs. Who's Vanguard? He asked. Jasmine grimaced. Maxwell's private army. But there is. Best there is, Maxwell said. Up on the catwalk, the soldiers stood for a moment, waving away smoke. They haven't seen us yet, Stephen realized. Jasmine glared at Maxwell again and again. The dragon energy began to swell up around her, but this time, Maxwell raised his head, and a feral expression came over his face. A bat-winged dragon lunged forth from him, snapping its jaws at Jasmine. As Jasmine watched, startled, the energy around her started to shimmer, rising up like fireflies in the air. Maxwell's dragon opened its mouth again, devouring it and breathing it in. Jasmine collapsed. Carlos ran forward and caught her before she could hit the ground. Stephen heard the tiger roar inside him again, and he turned to Maxwell and snarled. Then he felt a hand on his shoulder. He whirled around, baring his teeth. It was Carlos, with Jasmine standing weakly behind him. "No," Carlos said. "You can't fight him." Stephen looked back at the grinning Maxwell. "He's trapped under the thing," Stephen said. "You've no idea the power he is. The dragon is the strongest of all the Zodoac signs. Even half that power could stomp a tiger like a bug." "Come on over here, boy," Maxwell said, baring his teeth like an animal. "Give it a try." "Besides," Jasmine said, waving her arms upward. Stephen looked. The soldiers had spotted them and were running along the catwalk toward the ladder leading to the floor. Stephen glanced quickly from Jasmine to Carlos. "Can I trust them?" he wondered. "I don't even know who these people are." The clattering of the soldiers' footsteps grew louder. Stephen took one last look at Maxwell. The leader was still glowing bright and grinning from ear to ear. Jasmine slapped Stephen on the shoulder hard and ducked under the half-fallen wall beam. Without looking back, she motioned for Stephen and Carlos to follow. Carlos took off, and Stephen hurried after them. Jasmine led them across the room, around the pools, past several chunks of debris, to the central stage. It was still smoking, and it smelled like burning metal. Carlos motioned them to duck down behind it. "We can't hide here for long," Jasmine said, keeping her voice low. She pointed toward the stairwell entrance, up on the catwalk. "And that's the only exit, right?" Grimly, Carlos nodded. "Jazz, how powerful are you now? Can you, I don't know, fly us out of here?" "Not right now. You saw what happened back there. Maxwell and I share the dragon power. It's different, more powerful than others. And right now he's got the upper hand." And all three of them looked up at once. Stephen frowned, studying the inner slope of the walls and chamber. They were pocked with jagged metal now, burned and broken. 8 feet above, the half-fallen ceiling beams slanted over their heads, and past that, above the broken chaipan, the night sky showed through a semicircle in the roof. Suddenly, Stephen noticed that Jasmine was staring at him. "It's up to you," she said. "Me?" he asked. She gestured blithely at Carlos. "He doesn't have any powers." But, Stephen paused. "I don't even know you people. Why should I go with you?" "Are you kidding?" Jasmine asked. She gestured back toward Maxwell. Stephen could see the soldiers clustering around him, beginning to dig him free. Stephen gritted his teeth. "Guess this is it," he thought. "Do you really want to be a hero?" Swallowing the fear, he nodded. He clenched his teeth, willing the tiger energy to rise up inside him. He tensed himself to leap. And then Carlos stepped forward, holding up a hand. "No," Carlos said. Jasmine's head whipped around. "What?" "We can't." Carlos shook his head, gesturing decisively at Stephen. "We can't take him with us." All right, you guys, I hope you enjoyed. That was chapter 5. All right, I will see you guys soon. Bye.